case include a lot of things about the background and all, but the principle regarding the principle, so we'll discuss the major issue in this case was that an adjudication order under the customs was passed against the assessee. The case title is SpiceJet Limited versus the Additional Commissioner of Customs and the High Court. It is from the High Court of Telangana. So in this case, the adjudication order was passed against the assessee. As per the provisions of the customs law, there is a time limit to file an appeal, which is 2 months, 60 days from the date of communication of the order, and further condonable period of 30 days is allowed. So in total, a maximum time limit of 90 days can be allowed to an assessee to file the appeal. But in this case, the order was passed on 14th of March, but was received by the assessee on 20th of March. From 20th of March, ideally the 60 days ends on the from the March. It's May is the normal time limit. Then further condonable period up to June it could be filed. But the assessee could not file an appeal for various reasons, and the assessee filed the condonation application and ultimately filed the appeal in the month of October. Now, when the appeal was filed, the first appellate authority rejected the appeal, saying it is time barred and we cannot entertain. And they did not go into the merits of the case also. And without discussing on merit, they simply rejected it. The assessee went to the further appeal and argued that the appellate authority should have heard the matter on merits rather than strictly adhering to the time limit, because this is without discussing the merits, this is a violation of natural justice and so on. So the assessee argued that time limit is merely procedural in nature and it is causing unnecessary hardship, so the appeal should be allowed. But the tribunal held that the first authority does not have the power to condone the delay beyond a period of 30 days. But since the appeal was filed with a delay of 140 days, even after the condonable period, so appeal could not be entertained. Later on, the appellant went to High Court, and the appellant from its side relied on various precedences, saying that this is procedural in nature. The assessee also argued that as per the provisions of Limitation Act 1963, the provisions of Limitation Act shall apply to special statutes unless the special statutes expressly bars the application of Limitation Act. So the assessee argued that it should be allowed because the provision of Customs Acts does not specifically bar the application of Limitation Act, and relying on few judgments regarding the procedural nature of the time limit and all, and also argued that this should not curtail the substantive right to appeal of the assessee. But the from the department side also there were arguments on various Supreme Court judgments saying that the time limit has to be adhered to strictly and the lower authorities do not have power to condone beyond a specific period. The High Court, while the High Court accepted the argument of the department that the time limit is to be adhered to and the appellate authority does not have the power to condone the delay, but also noted that if the matter is not heard on merits, it will curtail the substantive rights. So, in light of the specific facts of the case, the High Court allowed the writ petition. The High Court also noted that generally writ petition cannot be entertained merely because the time limit to file an appeal has been passed. So to bypass that, the assessee cannot prefer an writ petition in all the cases, and also noted that the reliance placed on various judgments by the department side, while the principle is clear that the lower authority does not have the power to condone beyond a specific period, also held that those Supreme Court judgments has to be seen in the context, and if the substantive right of the appellant is curtailed, the High Court has power to intervene in specific situations, not as a regular exercise that in every case the assessee will go to High Court and say that give me an opportunity to be heard once. So High Court allowed the writ petition. Now, why I said that this is relevant for the GST, because in GST, uh, if I am correct, at least with the professionals whom I am in touch with, everybody is having at least some percentage of their matters in their hand, which are related to the time barred appeals. The appellant could not file the appeal. For example, the order has been passed in 2020-21. Now, due to COVID or for whatever reason, The appellant was not aware of the order and could not file the appeal within the 3 months, which is provided under section 1071, that you have to file the appeal within 3 months from the communication, plus a further condonable period of 1 month as per 1074. So the GST law also prescribes a particular time limit. If the assessee could not file the appellant could not file the appeal within that time limit, now because the recovery action has started, so they are becoming aware of the orders and all, and they are now preferring the appeal, but appeals are getting rejected because of the limitation issue. Now all those matters will go to tribunals. So if we go by the various precedences, Supreme Court judgments, and there's one Supreme Court judgment in the company law matter also, where the Supreme Court held that the tribunal or the lower authorities are not a court per se, to which the Limitation Act should apply for extension of time limit. And there they have held that tribunal does not have the power to condone the time limit beyond the time provided under the specific statute. But at the same time, there are few judgments from the Honorable High Court of Calcutta, two, three judgments, S.K. Chakrabarti and then Arvind Gupta and all. So those two, three judgments are saying that the time limit provided under Section 107 is merely directory in nature and not mandatory. Limitation Act will prevail over the GST law, because the GST law does not specifically supersede the Limitation Act in this respect. So in GST also, this customs ruling will be helpful in the sense it will have an impact, and we'll have to see how the tribunal considers the matters of time barred appeal in the GST. Ayush, would you like to add anything on this?
Yes, Gopal. See, there is this concept or there is this logic that all these appellate authority, whether this Commissioner appeals or the Judge Chat, they are bound by the law because they are formed under a law. They are established under a law. GSTAT is a formulation of the GST Act. It is not formulated under any other act, or it is not a separate body. It is a part of GST Act only, GSTAT. So they have to, by hook and crook, they have to follow the law, whatever is written in the law, whether it is a circular, whether it is anything, or they have to follow that. Now, when I talk about the first appellate authority, the law clearly says that they cannot condone a delay of more than 30 days. So whatever the reason may be, if I am filing an appeal after 30 days, appellate authority does not have the power under the law to condone that delay. So they are bound by the law, and there is nothing wrong if they are not condoning that delay, because they are bound by the law and law does not allow them. Now, when the matter will go to GST tribunal, there were cases in the service tax era also, many cases in the service tax and the central excise era, wherein the tribunal clearly said that we are also bound by the law, and whatever the appellate authority has done is under the frameworks of the service tax law or the central excise law only. Whatever they have done by not condoning the delay of more than 30 days, that is beyond their powers, and whatever they have done is correct. So they also did not entertain the appeal. They also did not condone the delay that was filed before the commissioner, because the appeal was filed delayed before the commissioner appeals. But many a times in all these cases, we have seen, because High Court and Supreme Court are not formulated under the GST law, they are in a separate existence and they are not bound by the timelines given under the GST law. So in the earlier regime also, I have seen many cases, we have seen many cases wherein even after the tribunal has rejected the condonation, the high courts have allowed only on the basis of the principles of natural justice, because an assessee should be given a fair chance to listen to its case on merits. But for the action, I mean the action taken by the appellate authority or by the GSTAT, in this case, I don't think the decision was wrong. Because had they condoned the delay, had GST, had the SISTAT customs, had the SISTAT tribunal condoned the delay, then that would have been beyond the law, which is not in their power. This is what my opinion is on this matter.
Ayush, so with this, two more important points emerge, especially with respect to GST related appeals. Now, when the GST, so with effect from I think January 26 onwards, the GST portal has been changed a bit, and the additional notices and notice and order tab has been merged.
Yes.
Prior to that, it was separate.
Correct.
Now, if a person, if an appellant was, if a taxpayer was handling the compliance and all himself, and he was not aware particularly how the portal functions, and this is the case. This is not something which is very unique or special. I am talking about. There are many cases where the
Right.
either the in-house accountant was handling the compliance, and because most of the
Out
things
of the
were
total cases, 20% cases we have like this only, where the appeal
correct.
period has been gone, is they are time bound and we are filing the appeal.
Right. Now, in those cases, if the appellant was or the taxpayer was not aware of that particular judgment or notice being uploaded on the portal, and they could never file any response, any clarification to the departments, even when the cases are genuine. So let's say, so there's one case I was seeing that from the system generated analysis that the department gets. So they get in the ASMT, they get a system generated comparison of 2A, 3B, and the other issues. So the client had claimed or the taxpayer had claimed ITC of say 5 lakh rupees, but the demand of reversal was made for 10 lakh rupees. For the same 5 lakh, they demanded under two different for two different reasons. One is that you have exempt supplies, so 100% reversal,
Huh.
and second that it is not appearing in 2A's, so again you reverse it.
Okay.
So that is a very genuine case, but they could not file the response because they were not aware of the this notices and orders, etc. Now appeal will get rejected because this is time barred. Whether the tribunal will consider it as a principle of natural justice and will hear it on merits, or how this should be seen from the professional's perspective, from the taxpayer's perspective, and how the tribunal is likely to consider, or how the tribunal is likely to have a liberal approach, because the GST is still evolving and portal related changes we are still seeing.
Right. See, I think high courts so generally will keep the liberal approach. But so playing the devil's advocate right now, there is one concept called ignorance of law is not an excuse. There are many
Right.
cases I can share right now. I don't remember the case laws, but there are many cases of high courts wherein no, no, specifically under the Income Tax Act, not under this GST and the indirect taxes, but especially under the Income Tax Act, there are many cases where the High Court in itself has said that the ignorance of law is not an excuse. That because the petitioners over there took the arguments that we were not aware of this provision, we were not aware of this provision, or we were not aware that this income is taxable like this, or this tax rate has been applicable, or the amendment was made. So the High Court specifically said that this was your duty to know because you are an assessee or your tax. Maybe they have taken the approach that our CA did not guide us, but again, the High Courts have said that this again the same thing. The ignorance of law is not an excuse. Now coming back, there were also cases under the GST in the starting in the whereas high courts have said that because GST is a new law, a liberal approach should be taken. Now, when I talk about the new law, what is the new law till when it is new? Starting 3-4 years are new, or it is still a new law, or it is still a evolving law, and that is why it will always be a new law because portal is changing daily. I mean, like you just said that they must additional notices tab with view notices tab, but maybe that is because of where there were many litigations on this point that my notice was uploaded on the additional notices tab and not on the main notices tab. But again, that portal is evolving, a portal is changing like anything. So till when can I say that it is a new law, or till when well the high courts will say that yes, we will take the liberal approach that you are not, because in the law in itself it is written that the notice should be communicated through the portal. Now once it has been uploaded on the portal, can I take an argument that I was not aware that the my notice was uploaded on the portal, or I did not see the notice?
So, Ayush, for this, there is one judgment from Honorable High Court of Allahabad. I think in the first one or two sessions we discussed this,
Correct.
that when it was uploaded on additional notice and order, and the appellant was not aware of it, and in that particular case, the from the department side, they had accepted this fact that the department do not have any log to maintain, at least till that time. Department do not have any log whether the assessee has opened the attachment uploaded on the portal or not. So, Honorable High Court said that it may be called as service of notice as per Section 169, but
Correct.
it will not be considered as effective communication.
Effective communication, correct.
And whereas the time limit under 107 start from the is counted as 3 months from the communication of the order.
See,
So
Gopal,
when I was
sorry to interrupt. I understand. I have also read that case law, and it is, I don't know. I don't
right.
have to opinion that case law. Yes, right. You are saying that the High Court have specifically said that it is a service of the notice, but not the effective communication of the notice. Now, tell me one thing. If I go to my view notices and orders tab and I see one notice over there and I see there can be a huge amount for this year and I not open it at all, can I later on go and take a stand that my notice was never communicated to me? Now, what
So if
see, I am just playing devil's advocate. I know when the client will come to me, I will also take all these arguments with all these case
definitely,
laws. But
definitely.
right now, when I play from the department side, I want to understand that how would I know or how would we establish that after uploading the notice on the portal, what else is required to be done on the department's side? I mean, they are also humans. Let us forget that they're humans or not. Let us say that whether they have done everything with in as per the law or not. Now, when the law says that you have to upload that on the portal, when I upload that on the portal, when department uploads that on the portal, an email also goes to the registered email ID that a new notice has been uploaded and kindly go and see. No attachment is there on that mail, but there is an intimation that yes, new notice has been uploaded, something has been uploaded on the portal. You can log in into a portal and check. So now, what are the other steps that a department can take and see that there is an effective communication of the notice? Should they start again emailing them? Should they start courier the notices to them? What are the steps that can be taken?
So if we go by the provision of 169, it is only talking about the service.
Hmm,
So the moment they upload it on the portal, service is complete.
hmm,
There is no clarity in the law what is called as communication.
hmm,
So far as my understanding, again, from the professionals or the taxpayer side, my understanding, the jurisprudence is if the assessor is not replying to any notice, they uploaded ASMT 10, no response, DRC 01A, no response, 01, no response, then they issue 2, 3 reminders, no response.
hmm.
Then at that time, the department is supposed to take a step to confirm whether it has reached the correct person or not. Because recently I observed in one case, the assessee's actual email ID is ending with 3699 at the rate gmail.com, but when he is going to the portal and checking the contact details, it is showing 3966.
Okay.
And I don't know how it is verified.
Ah,
Every time OTP is coming for the filing the return, it is there. Now, it might happen that when email is triggered, it
hmm,
is going to the email ID that is mentioned in the contact section. But
hmm.
for OTP and all purpose, email is coming on the correct mail ID. I don't know how it is configured or maybe some technical error. So, from my end, because there are other judgments also where it is mentioned that the role of officer or the adjudication is not to pass an order but to have an so basically they should take an if approach to effectively adjudicate the matter, not simply to either confirm the demand or simply take the response on record without verifying it. So maybe that will be because I understand when I had interaction with few officers, especially those who are in the recovery sections, at least 60% cases they have is pertaining to ex parte orders. Nobody
Hmm,
appeared, nobody
hmm.
provided any response. So maybe this will create a lot of work for the tribunal also. Every time somebody will go that please get my appeal admitted. So either maybe some clarification should be there from the CBIC side, some liberal approach that should effectively resolve the issue.
Right, 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 right.
So that's my understanding. But moving on to next case, because this will still go on further litigation.
Yes, 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 yes.
Uh, uh,
Yes, yes. Hmm.
yes. Ayush, would you like to take the second one? Discuss the second
Yeah,
one?
sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Gopal. This case is in the petition is HM Steels Limited in the High Court of Himachal Pradesh. Interestingly, why I have picked up this case is because I didn't want to discuss this case. I wanted to discuss the armor security case of the Supreme Court. So the armor security India Limited case was referred or was followed in this case. That is why I picked up this case. The case again, since many of you know that Armor Security India Private Limited, the case law relates to the parallel proceedings, Section 6 under the GST Act, CGST Act. what it says is that the two authorities cannot take on the proceedings, cannot, initiate the proceedings in the same subject matter at the same time. In the same subject matter, two authorities cannot initiate the proceedings. There are many cases that we are dealing right now, many cases right now that I will tell you the examples first of all. Audit of one of my client was conducted for the period 2017-18 to the period 2021-22. Audit under Section 65 was conducted. We gave them all the documents. We paid the tax, due tax amount along with penalty. We knew that our client did something. I mean, there was some short payment of tax. So we accepted and paid the tax amount of 2.5 CR in ADT 2 only. Now again, few days back, an anti-evasion notice came for 2021 and 21-22, alleging the same difference and some other differences as well. Now, when I give them the ADT 2, they are somehow convinced that yes, this difference has been paid. But there are some other differences also, which were identified at the time of audit. I gave them the reply. They were satisfied with my audit team was satisfied with my reply, and they did not initiate any audit para on this. But again, because that difference is appearing on the portal, anti-evasion department issued the notice on that difference, saying that your 1 and 3B are not matching. So pay there's a difference of around 1.5 CR. So pay the amount of 1.5 CR. My question or my contention or my, the client's mainly question in this is that this difference of 1.5 CR was already explained to the audit authorities, at the time of audit, and all the documents, extensive documents were given. They were satisfied with our reply and they did not initiate any audit para of 1.5 CR, which was the difference between 1 and 3B, because that was the mistake. Now, when the anti-evasion department again issued the notice of the same difference, am I required to give them the same clarification? Or can I say that this difference was already taken care by the audit team and we gave them all the documents, but there is no mention of such difference in ADT 1 or ADT 2 or any other audit memo that was issued by the department. So there is no records at all that can substantiate that this difference was checked by the audit team. Similarly, in one or two cases also I have seen that anti-evasion department at the central starts the inquiry, and at the same time state departments also start the inquiry. So this peculiar judgment of HM Steels Limited, in this case also the CGST authorities and the SGST authorities together initiated the inquiry on the same subject matter, in this case of the same period. I will not discuss this case. Let's go to Arma security case. In this case also, the court said that the guidelines have been properly laid by the Supreme Court of India in the case of Arma security, and all the departmental authorities or all the adjudicating authorities have to follow the guidelines laid in that case. Now, what was discussed in that case was the two things, the meaning of two things. The first was, what do you mean by initiation of any proceedings? Can someone under section 70 say that the proceedings has been initiated, or a notice under section 61 ASMT 10 initiate any proceedings, or a notice under section 65 initiate any proceeding, or a direct recovery under section 79 can initiate any proceeding? The second important concept that was discussed in that judgment was the same subject matter. Now, the Supreme Court, in respect of the initiation of any proceedings, held that the issuance of summons under section 70 is just an inquiry. It is not synonyms to any proceedings. Therefore, when a department is issuing any summon or asking for any documents, it is only initiating an inquiry, it is only initiating an investigation to further initiate any proceedings if they find any discrepancy. So even if my audit was conducted and a summon has been issued under section 70 by the anti-evasion department, it is just an inquiry that they are undertaking. They are not initiating any proceedings. Now, when I come, what is initiation of proceedings? Initiation of proceedings is the issuance of the show cause notice under section 73 or section 74 that has been said by the Supreme Court of India. So only when a show cause notice has been issued to the assessee, then only it can be said that the proceedings has been initiated, because the demand amount has been finalized and said demand amount has been proposed or demanded from the noticee or from the assessee. Now the proceedings have been initiated. Apart from that, any earlier stage before the issuance of the show cause notice is not the initiation of any proceedings. Second, when it came to discussion about the heading same subject matter, the same subject matter means the same period and the same allegations. So that means difference between 2B 3B with the period 2021 say is the same subject matter, but both should be satisfied. Say if I say that a notice has been issued for 2021 for a difference between 1 and 3B, so another notice can be issued by any other department for same period, that is 2021, for difference between 2B 3B, because they are not same subject matter. The question arises, Gopal, for discussion, the question arises, how far should the assessee be, expected to supply or to give the documents to n number of departments? See, there is my proper officer adjudicating authority, if I am in center, say, there is anti-evasion, there is audit, there is DGGI. And then at the same time, state can also come. See, why I am talking this, I have a client having a manifold turnover of around 50,000 CR. They have an apparent difference in the year 21-22 of between 2B 3B of 246 CR. When you look at that figure 246 CR, anyone will be triggered and will issue a notice. But me as a consultant handling that client have already given that reply to 3 different departments, substantiating everything, and no show cause notice has been issued. Everyone understood. Everyone dropped the proceedings. So inquiry and investigation. But how many times should I or my client should suffer saying, because he's a huge client, 246 CR is appearing in only single year, how many times should I give the documents?
Right. So I completely agree with this, because this is like the for large corporate or whether it's a small business, everybody, because it is unnecessary deployment of the manpower time, and it is causing unnecessary harassment to the taxpayers also, because this is completely against the basic principle that we as a nation are aiming to achieve, that is ease of doing business. So even in the armored security, if I remember correctly, in some paragraph they mentioned that if there is parallel proceeding going on also, even in that case, you go to that department and you go to the authority that is already doing it, or the second authority, and say that this is already pending with that this second authority, so so that they can internally discuss. But why those things are happening from, because if my jurisdictional officer has already initiated any proceedings and any matter is there, so it should be internally discussed between the departments, and whatever documents has to be transferred, they should internally do, so that it is if at all required, if the show cause notice has already been issued on a specific subject matter, other authorities anyway depart from proceeding on the same subject matter. But if the parallel summons are also going, inquiry and other matters are also going, so in that case also the authorities should internally have this discussion, before documents are sought from the assessees.
Right, but again, that is at their discretion, no?
That is that it no, I'm saying
Huh.
it should be made mandatory from their end rather
Huh.
than we giving to them.
Correct, correct, correct. But that is
Because
not
as of
happening at the ground level.
right. It is not happening, but it should be.
That is not the reality, right? Manmohan ji is also saying that there's a provision that only one agency will handle the case, either center, state, or any other agency. Client may say that one agency is handling, approach them. That is what we are discussing, Manmohan ji. But when you come to the ground reality, no, I am telling you, when I have dealt with these cases, specifically when I am registered and when my proper officer or the adjudicating officer is the center state, I am not defaming anyone, but when my proper officer is the center, the state departments initiates inquiry, they do not understand that this has already been taken care by the center. There is only one standard line that I have heard all the time. हमको तो ऊपर से मैंडेट आया है, हम तो करेंगे.
Or may I say something?
Yes, yes, Manmohan ji, please.
Actually, yesterday I was with the department officials, and there one senior officer has clearly stated that there is one circular that SSC case will be handled by the one agency only. अगर कोई दूसरी एजेंसी उसमें इंटरफियर करती है, देयर इज ए स्टेट circular, तो वो SSC can say that you approach the same agency. He will in consultation with us or in conversation with us, you approach with them only one agency will trigger the client only. ना सेंट्रल है तो सेंट्रल, स्टेट है तो स्टेट, ऑडिट है तो ऑडिट, मतलब जो पहला शुरू हो गया उसको अप्रोच कर सकते हैं. जैसे आपने कहा ना डिफरेंट जगह से आते हैं ना,
करेक्ट है.
तो दैट
ऑनलाइन
वाज द
प्रोसीडिंग
व्यू
में
ऑफ द
आपको
हायर
एक
ऑफिशियल.
छोटी सी चीज, वॉट एवर यू आर सेइंग इज लॉजिकली करेक्ट, हो भी रहा है. मैं आपको एक लॉजिकली करेक्ट होना भी यही चाहिए, लेकिन हो क्या रहा है, मैं आपको सिंपल सा एग्जांपल यही देता हूं कि अगर 2B 3B की लाइबिलिटी पोर्टल पे अपरेंट है,
राइट
राइट, ये मतलब डीम्ड कह लो या कुछ भी कह लो, ऑब्वियस है सर कि ऑडिट के टाइम पे तो उसको चेक कर ही गया होगा.
राइट
ऑडिट में डिपार्टमेंट 2B 3B 1 3B जैसी चीजें तो नहीं छोड़ सकता.
नहीं, और फिर उसके बाद क्या ना, वो तो सिस्टम अपडेट भी
सर एक
करते हैं
सेकंड,
ना,
अगर टू
डिफरेंस
बी थ्री
निकालता है.
बी अपरेंट लाइबिलिटी है पोर्टल पे, जिसको ऑडिट में चेक किया होगा, मैंने उसका रिप्लाई भी दिया होगा, और
राइट
अगर उसका कोई ऑडिट पैरा नहीं है तो इट शुड बी टीम्ड कि मेरी कोई लाइबिलिटी नहीं बनती है, मैंने जो भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स दिए वो सफिशिएंट थे और ऑडिट टीम ने उसको माना.
यू आर राइट सर.
बट जब स्टेट टीम दोबारा से सेम डिफरेंस देख के नोटिस देती है, और जब मैं उनसे कहता हूं ADT 2 देके कि आप ये देखो इस ADT 2 में कोई पैरा ही नहीं है, इसका मतलब ये होना चाहिए कि इसकी कोई लाइबिलिटी नहीं है, तो वो ये कहते हैं अगर पैरा नहीं है तो उन्होंने चेक ही नहीं किया.
हाँ, oh actually क्या nowadays it is a customary that
हम्म.
everything you put on the auditor. और डिपार्टमेंट विल नॉट लेट हिम डाउन बिकॉज उनके पास थोड़ी स्टैट्यूटरी अथॉरिटी है ना, इसलिए वो थोड़ा सा अपर हैंड रखते हैं.
दैट इज व्हाट
बट हायर ऑफिसर्स आर लिटिल बिट ट्राई टू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम. तो ये जो समटाइम एरोगेंट ऑफिसर, लोअर लेवल पे ऑफिसर होते हैं, दे आर मोर एरोगेंट based on the other officers. So that was the development that I wish to share with you. So one person asked me what is the circular number. I don't know. मेरे उसके पास circular number या तो
मनमोहन
मुझे
सर
बताना पड़ेगा. But
मनमोहन
some
सर
circular, he was saying
मनमोहन
that
सर
there is a circular.
यस गोपाल, यस.
हाँ, मनमोहन सर मैं ये कह रहा हूँ ना, आप जो कह रहे हो ना कि डिपार्टमेंट ऐसा कह रहा है, वही जो आर्मड सिक्योरिटी वाली जजमेंट है, उस जजमेंट के बेसिस में डिपार्टमेंट इज एक्सेप्टिंग दिस. बट द प्रॉब्लम इज व्हाट वी आर डिस्कसिंग कि अगर मेरी एक अथॉरिटी सेंट्रल अथॉरिटी ने कर दिया, अब स्टेट अथॉरिटी मेरे से वापस अगर मांग रही है, तो एवरी टाइम आई हैव टू गो टू देम एंड से कि भाई आप ये चीजें ऑलरेडी उनसे मांगो. बट वो मैप भी उनके पास चल रहा है, उनका भी मुझे उसको एविडेंस देना पड़ेगा कि हमारे पास ये नोटिस आई थी सेंटर से, हमने उनको ये रिप्लाई किया. Otherwise, by merely saying it verbally, अदर ऑथोरिटीज
और
नॉट
नहीं,
एक्सेप्टिंग कि आपका
गोपाल जी, यही मैं कह रहा हूँ, वो हायर ऑफिसर्स क्या कह रहे थे, यू राइट टू दैट पर्सन कि सेंट्रल अथॉरिटी के साथ चल रही है, यू अप्रोच देम।
सो सर वही वही मेरा भी वही पॉइंट था सर कि ये चीजें इंटरनली, क्योंकि टैक्स पेयर और प्रोफेशनल्स की टाइम उसमें ज्यादा डिप्लॉय हो जा रही है। इवन
राइट।
मेरे को वो कम्युनिकेट भी करना है, अगर मेरे को 4 अथॉरिटी आ रही है तो मेरे को 4 अलग अलग लेटर बनाने पड़ रहे हैं, चारों के लिए मेरे को उनको सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट देना पड़ रहा है। अब इसमें
समटाइम
प्रॉब्लम क्या
इट
आती है?
दैट मैनुअल
अब
मैनुअल इंटरवेंशन के कारण, या कई बार हम गलती कर सकते हैं,
इस
एक को एक शब्द लिख दिया, दूसरे को दूसरा लिख दिया, प्रॉब्लम खड़ी हो गई।
और सर प्रॉब्लम एक ये भी आती है, आयुष यू वेट दिस इफ वी हैव सीन दिस प्रॉब्लम, मतलब एट योर एंड आल्सो, दैट सेंटर ने 2A 3B का डिफरेंस निकाला, लेट से फ्रॉम दी GSTR 9 की टेबल 8 से। सो देयर इज अ डिफरेंस
राइट।
ऑफ एक्स अमाउंट। नाउ स्टेट इज एक्सट्रैक्टिंग फ्रॉम दी कंपैरिजन टेबल, स्टेट इज सेइंग कि ये सेम सब्जेक्ट मैटर नहीं है बिकॉज उसने कोई और डिफरेंस निकाला है। दैट इज
यू आर
दैट इज
राइट।
अगेन अ डिफरेंट हेडेक कि हमें उनको एक्सप्लेन करना है कि व्हाई इट इज सेम सब्जेक्ट मैटर।
राइट।
Right.
No, there is a lot of problems. Customer is on the lower side at this time. GST department is because every time there is a lot of changes. Every time uploading on the judgment on the notice, etc. on the mail. So some persons are not tech friendly. So going on, but your discussion is good enough, sir. It's very enriched.
Manmohanji. Gopal, can you take up the next case now?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, yes,
see you,
yes.
sir.
So the third case is again a very interesting one. This is regarding again appellate rights के ऊपर में है. So the case is from again the High Court of State of Telangana. In the case of, so there are two parties. One is the company Sugna Metal Limited versus Joint Commissioner, and the other party which is the director in person Bharat Kumar Agarwal versus Joint Commissioner. So the specific fact of the case that the an adjudication order was passed against the company in which the Bharat Kumar Agarwal is the managing director. So to the company, the department demanded some amount, saying that there's some wrongful availment of irregular availment of ITC, and because the managing director was was looking after the affairs of the company, so the department said that as per section 122 1A, you are a beneficiary of this. So for the omission and all, they impose the penalty, personal penalty in terms of section 122 1A for the act of omission and commission and being the beneficiary of the transaction on the managing director. Now the proceedings were concluded, SCN was issued, DRC 07 was issued, but the DRC 07 was issued only in the name of the company because company is a registered person. So company ke against me they issued the DRC 07 and passed the order. However, because the penalty was imposed on the managing director also, and as per the provision of 107, any person aggrieved by an order or decision of the adjudicating authority can prefer an appeal before the appellate authority. So the managing director wanted to appeal against the penalty demanded. However, because the managing director is unregistered person or was unregistered person, they could not prefer an appeal online. So for that reason, they specifically they were the party to this writ petition amongst other grounds of principle of natural justice and etc. on the merits and all. But the limited aspect that has been decided in this judgment is that when the managing director does not have a GST registration, they cannot prefer an appeal. So the Honorable High Court directed the department to issue a temporary ID to the managing director. Basically, give them a temporary GST number, temporary ID, and from that they can file an appeal. And a separate DRC 07 has to be issued in the name of the managing director. And once that has been issued, the limitation to file appeal should be counted from the date of that DRC 07, and accordingly the petitioner could file the appeal. And so basically, this was the protection of the right to appeal by the managing by the persons who are aggrieved by an order, although they were not unregistered. So basically, the procedural aspects could not curtail the remedy of appeal. So this was the judgment from this particular case. But this raises a different question as per GST 80 procedure rules also. When a common order has been passed against multiple parties, every party is required to prefer a separate appeal. I think Rule 18 of the GST 80 procedure rules prescribe that. Now the point is, if so similar case like this, when the personal penalty is imposed on an individual who is not a registered person, so how do they prefer an appeal before the GStat, or if we talk about the 107 appeals also, because this was a specific case where the High Court said that you give a temporary ID. But if we go by the strict rules of the temporary ID, as per the CGST rules, temporary ID can be obtained by a registered person who is either seeking a refund. So, for example, in case of cancellation of flats and all construction services, there was a circular that they can claim a refund. So, for that, they can apply for temporary ID or for seeking advance ruling, because an advance ruling can be sought by a person who is willing to enter into a particular transaction. So, they can seek an advance ruling. Only in those two cases, CGST rules provide that temporary ID may be given, may be applied for. But for all other cases, the person cannot be left remediless because there is no provision or there is no particular process for filing an appeal by the unregistered person. So this should have an impact on those cases. Even in the tribunal, this will be relevant. And if we see the tribunal registration portal also, it asks for multiple option: taxpayer, professional, government, and there is another option of any other. So unregistered person is logically allowed to file an appeal, but currently the structure, rules, and procedures are coming in between those right to appeal and the taxpayer.
Gopal, classic example in this case is of e-way bill matters,
E-bills.
where my truck is stopped at a place, at a state where my registration is not there. So they like the first thing they do is to initiate the process of creating a temporary ID, because then only I can pay my tax amount. Because I am also an unregistered person only in that state. Now, when this can happen, in the e-way bill cases, where the department by themselves create a temporary ID and they give them give that to the assessee. So I think in these cases also this should be done by the department only, that by creating a temporary ID, they can also upload that order on the portal.
Right, they should.
Uh,
They should do it suo moto, and perhaps the rules will be required to go under change. Maybe this should be taken up by the council also if this problem is there.
right, right.
Because recently we have seen so there's I will talk about this particular change also after the judgments, that the portal allowed something which was not there on the law: cross utilization of CGST SGST to IGS for IGST payment in any order.
At March 26,
Right. From January 20th, in February period, they allowed. Now they have modified the advisory. They have replaced the earlier advisory without any further intimation. And now the portal is again in line with the law.
hmm,
So if the law is not allowing, even if department gives a temporary ID, this creates a serious question on the maintainability of such appeal or any proceeding.
right,
Right.
okay.
Yes. Right. We have.
Next case that I would like to take up is in the of the Bombay High Court in the case of Florida Solvent Private Limited versus the Superintendent CGST Thane. Why this is important case law or a common issue? I think 99% of us are facing, the professionals, almost 100% of the professionals are facing, that the GST liability was confirmed just because the supplier's registration was cancelled with retrospective effect, but on a subsequent date, that is after the purchases were made, payments were made, it is duly reflecting in my GST 2B. I have the e-way bill copy, I have the bank statement, I have the invoice copy, I have the bill T, I have everything. But subsequently, my supplier's registration was cancelled with retrospective date, and department is denying my ITC on it, or canceling my GST registration on it, or blocking my credit ledger because of that. Florida Solvent Private Limited, what the Bombay High Court observed, that only because the supplier's registration has been cancelled, you cannot say that there has been a fraudulent ITC availment by the recipient. That is what we are saying, that all the professionals are saying. You have to bring on record, or you have to bring on table the cogent materials which establishes that a fraud has been done by the recipient. There was a collusion, there was, they were together in the same team, or only a fake bill was generated and the cash was rotated. Just merely alleging fraudulent ITC on the basis of cancellation of GST registration, that too on a subsequent date, let it be with a retrospective effect, but on a subsequent date, cannot say that the ITC, that the recipient is at fault. Interestingly, one para 5 I will read of this judgment. In our opinion, considering the nature of the documents, it was expected. What are the nature of the documents? Because in this case, let me just give you the background. In this case, the petitioner gave the e-way bill, the petitioner gave the invoices, the bank statements, the bill copy, everything they gave, they had to substantiate that the goods were received. So now what the High Court in para 5, very interesting observation. In our opinion, considering the nature of the documents, it was expected that the designated officer would record findings on those documents without merely being influenced by the fact that the registration of the suppliers in some cases is should cancelled. In what facts and circumstances we are not aware, such cancellations solely cannot itself be the basis of the cancellations of the petitioner's registration unless the same is corroborated by tangible materials that the petitioner in some manner, as the law would consider, was a beneficiary of an established illegality. Interestingly, they said that the nature of the documents that the petitioner submitted, it was the duty of the department to record the findings that why those documents are not sufficient, or why the only the allegation that the supplier's registration is cancelled, what are the benefits, or what are the benefits that has been passed on to the recipient, how the recipient is the beneficiary of such illegality. This is the Bombay High Court judgment. This was in this case the registration of the supplier was being cancelled because of this. This case was remanded back to the authority for fresh adjudication to consider all these points. This is going to be a very interesting judgment, very important judgment for all of us. Why I am saying this is that there are n number of cases, huge crores of demands pending with the department. Because when we go to the department at this point of time, at the lower authorities, High Court listens to us, but at this point of time, the lower authorities simply say that cancellation of registration, आप कुछ भी document दे दो, we will not listen. अगेन हमारे पास तो ऊपर से मैंडेट है, कैंसिलेशन रजिस्ट्रेशन वाले केसेस तो सारे कंफर्म करने हैं डिमांड. So
Mohit, sorry, Ayush, I think even although that was in the pre-GST regime, but the Santikiran judgment has given clear guideline that if the registration was valid at the time of transaction, and if the assessee can substantiate with the documents, then the department merely because it has been cancelled retrospectively, that is not sufficient to deny the ITC. Even after the Supreme Court guidelines, so if they are which has a binding effect on the country, so this is again
effect, but
everywhere.
again you said ignoring that it is a pre-GST judgment, so department is not ignoring that fact, no?
No, that is true, but ultimately the principle remains the same. The only the taxation, even the only the aspects of taxability has changed, or the conditions because there is no specific condition under GST that if it is retrospectively cancelled, so how long? So whenever I enter into a transaction until next 5 year, I'll have to ensure that my supplier's registration is not cancelled. That is something not provided in the law.
Correct.
So, and again, I think जो भी out on the merits, I think out of 100, 70 to 75 cases that will go to tribunal will be because of 2A 3B mismatch only.
Correct. Suppliers cancel registration. Now, I mean, many cases are there. I have lost the count. Seriously, I have lost the count how many cases.
Right.
Now
Absolutely.
I'm handling at various levels for only for cancellation. One of the ground is one of the demand is for cancellation of registration only.
Right.
Yes. Just. I think some problem with this. Ria, are you there? How the recording
I
is?
think no, Ria is not there.
Yeah, because recording is also stopped. No issues. We can go ahead, Gopal.
We can go ahead,
We
no
can take
problem.
up the queries, some queries, because it was already 12:55. So
Yes, yes, yes.
one or two queries. If
Yes, we
any
can take a.
participants wants to, or you, anybody, let's first ask the participants, then we can move on to those queries that
Yes,
we have
yes.
on a Google form. Okay. Purchaser of Gujarat Corporation. Gopal, you would like to take this up?
Yes,
Mine.
so Ayush, yeah, this is again a very common query everybody is facing,
Yes. Yes.
specifically because the purchasers gives their home address. So from the so this is even taken up in the litigation by the department also. Department says that because from your state you are basically supplying,
Hmm.
and as if we go by the provision of section 10(1), it says that where the movement for the supply ends. So there's no end trail that if it is going to Gujarat, if the supplier is already aware, it will move to Gujarat. So
Hmm.
one view is that it should be IGST. However, if in my view, this when the term says, if we read the provision of section 10, it says where the movement terminates for supply of goods. So supply is ending, all the rights and everything has been, risk and reward has been transferred for such supply at the time when the purchaser has taken it from the supplier in the Mumbai, in this example.
Correct.
So ideally, going by that logic or going by that intention, so if I'll read the specific line, the place of supply of goods other than supply of goods imported shall be where the supply involve movement of goods, whether by the supplier or by the recipient or by any other person. The place of supply of such goods shall be the location of goods at the time at which the movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. So for delivery to the recipient, when the shopkeeper has given the delivery inside the store itself, so it can be said, or in my view, it should be said that the delivery movement has terminated at the time when I have handed it over to him. Now it is his personal goods. He has purchased it. So he will carry wherever he wants. I cannot trace that. And I'm not supposed to trace that for the purpose of place of supply also.
Correct.
However, having said that, there is, I think in 2025 only, there was some ruling where they said it should be IGST because the delivery is ultimately terminating in the state, in another state. But in my view, it should be IGST, it should be CGST, SGST.
No, Gopal, see, this rightly said, first of all, that this is the query. I mean, we are fixing that GST, starting of GST. 10(1)(a), 10(1)(b), I'm not able to, just a second. Let me just open and
I'll screen share if you want.
just a second. I'm just opening. Where the supply involve movements of good, whether by the supplier or by the recipient. The place of supply of such goods shall be the location of the goods at the time at which the movement of the goods terminates. Where the goods are delivered to by the supplier to the recipient or any other on the direction of a third person before or during the movement of the goods, either by way of transfer of documents, it shall be deemed that it was the third person that has received the goods, and the place of supply of goods shall be the principal place of business of such person. Where the supply does not involve movement of the goods, whether by the supplier or by the recipient, the place of supply shall be the location of such goods at the time of the delivery of the goods. Then there was one CA added that where the supply of the goods is made to a person other than a registered person, that is, I think, not relevant. See, every time I'm saying, every year facing, everyone is charging as per the GST number given. As per the IGST or whatever the number is given, the tax is being charged on that basis only. Now, can I say that when the goods has been delivered to me, yes, the risk and reward has been transferred, but has the movement terminated?
So Ayush, there are two aspects. One is whether it will fall in 10(1)(a) or 10(1)(c). First thing.
Huh.
Second, now when it says where the supply involves movement of goods. So in my case, movement is there, but is the movement for the purpose of supply or is it post supply movement? So that factor also needs to be taken while framing any opinion or any argument. Because when I have supplied it inside the shop, now again, if the recipient is an unregistered person, then CA will come into picture. That address is given for the Gujarat. So as the query says, a purchaser of Gujarat came to shop at Mumbai and purchased mobile and gave the address of Gujarat. Now, if it is an unregistered recipient's case, if the address is given for that Gujarat location and the recipient is unregistered, the place of supply shall be the location as per the address of said person recorded in the invoice issued in respect of the said supply, and the location of supplier where the address of the said person is not recorded in the invoice.
So,
Now, there is explanation.
yes, Gopal.
Again, the explanation says recording of the name of the state of the said person in the invoice shall be deemed to be the recording of address. So even if he has simply mentioned Gujarat, there is no other address mentioned, then also it will be deemed that the address is recorded and the Gujarat will be the place of supply. In such case, it will be 10(1)(ca), notwithstanding what is covered in 10(1)(a) and 10(1)(c).
See, now
So
just a second. Now my point is, if so for unregistered person, it will be a interstate supply, IGST will be charged, and for a registered person, it will be intrastate supply, C and S will be charged. That is what the whole point is, right? Because see how redundant or how illogical is this to say that when I'm giving my GST number, then C or S will be charged, and when I'm not giving any GST number, I'm simply saying that right Gujarat, IGST will be charged. 10(1)(a) involves movement pre-supply, post-supply, whether related to supply or not, because whether supply involve movement of the goods also includes post-supply movement of the goods. That is what my point is. This will always be covered under point 10(1)(a) because that is why 10(1)(ca) was introduced. Although 10(1)(ca) I do not agree at all with 10(1)(ca), this is against the provisions of the IGST Act. But taking inference from 10(1)(ca), I'll say that this case will be covered under 10(1)(a) and IGST will be charged.
okay. For 10(1)(a) also, there can be one argument that because 10(1)(a) ends with the place of supply shall be the location of goods at the time at which the movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. Now, what is the delivery? Because there is a circular, there was a circular in case of goods in transit. So that circular says when the goods are, so as per section 16(2) of CGST Act, ITC is allowed only when the goods are received, goods or services are received. So that circular says if the goods have been handed over to the transporter of the recipient, that will be considered as it has been received. So if the goods have been handed over to the transporter in the month of March, say 31st March, but actual receipt is in April, so that circular says you can take the ITC in the month of March, it is deemed to be received.
Deemed to be
Because
received.
it has deemed to be received. So whether can we say that when the recipient himself has taken the delivery in the shop, can we say delivery of the goods to the recipient has been concluded and the movement of the goods terminates for delivery? It involves movement of goods, that is one aspect.
I understand your point. I understand your point. But I mean, 10(1)(a) IGST shall be, for all logical purposes, there are arguments
For
on both the
registered
sides.
cases,
Huh.
for registered person, there should be IGST for the reason also that the person is eligible for ITC also,
Correct.
logically.
Logically.
Right.
It's 1.5. I think we can take one query of. There are two more queries we'll take, then we can. Can DIN number be common for the same issue? Many notices issue related to cable operator office days. No, Govinda ji, there cannot be any one date for all on all the notices, even if the inquiry is same and two summons are issued under the same inquiry or a reminder notice is issued, every notice has to carry a separate DIN number. DIN cannot be same for the same inquiry. Right, Gopal? I think you also have the same point.
Yes, Ayush, definitely. Because the objective of DIN itself is to identify the unique document.
Correct. Many times, supplier issued the financial credit note for incentive or discount, and then the supplier deduct TDS under section 194R. Please explain the logic for asking GST by department when supplier deduct TDS under section 194R. इनकम टैक्स 194R में TDS क्यों डिडक्ट होता है, that तो I don't know, but logic of, if we want to discuss logic of financial credit note, that we can discuss. Obviously GST is not applicable on it. Financial credit note है अगर, अच्छा, okay,
Benefits, Ayush.
हाँ, I got it.
Perquisites.
Perquisites, हाँ. तो 190 नहीं 194R एक्चुअली क्या, सप्लायर इशूड फाइनेंशियल क्रेडिट नोट फॉर इंसेंटिव, देन द सप्लायर ने ही टीडीएस डिडक्ट कर लिया अंडर 194, बट अगर क्रेडिट नोट है देन द सप्लायर वाज लायबल टू पे एनीथिंग, हाउ कैन ही डिडक्ट टीडीएस, और ही जस्ट डिपॉजिटेड द टीडीएस.
मुझे उसने मुझे कोई बेनिफिट एक्सटेंड किया, तो लेट से ही वो सपोज टू गिव मी 10,000 का बेनिफिट. उसने
करेक्ट.
10,000 के बेनिफिट में से मुझे 9,000 दे दिया, 1,000 मेरा टीडीएस, क्योंकि वो मेरे हाथ में इनकम मानी जाएगी.
ओके आई गॉट इट. फाइनेंशियल क्रेडिट नोट 9,000 का दिया और 1,000 का उसने टीडीएस जमा करा दिया मेरा.
हाँ.
सी सर, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल सॉरी, ये क्योंकि इनकम टैक्स से रिलेटेड है, मैं एक पॉइंट इसमें कहूंगा. इनकम टैक्स, वॉट एवर द ट्रीटमेंट द इनकम टैक्स में फॉलो, इट कैन नॉट गाइड द ट्रीटमेंट अंडर द जीएसटी एक्ट. They both are the separate acts. There are n number of case laws that one treatment under the GST law cannot affect, one treatment under one law cannot affect the treatment of the same transaction under any other law. There are two separate laws, two separate provisions have to be read separately, not in conjunction with each other. Now, TDS is deducted under 194R, whatever the reasons may be. I am not an expert in the Income Tax Act. I am not commenting on it. When I come to the financial credit note point of view, financial credit notes, the circular, the GST law itself recognizes them. The circular, there is one circular, I don't, again, 200 something circular, which itself says that these incentives, as financial credit note without GST can be issued, and there are many audits that are being, I know I have with the department, I have concluded these audits on the basis of this circular only. So when I have issued the financial credit note, I have not reduced my output tax liability. Similarly, the recipient who has received this financial credit note has not taken any input tax credit or not reduced any input tax credit on the basis of it. So there is no GST implication of this financial credit note. And just because under section 194, it is being treated as income under the Income Tax Act, does not mean that it will be treated as a supply under the GST Act. For levying a tax under the GST Act, it has to be first be governed under section under section 7 as a supply, whether or not it may be an income under the GST law. Under the income under the Income Tax Act. This is the whole crux of it. We can discuss on this for any long as you want, because this issue is not new. It is like pending or continuing from the service tax era. So whatever the department is asking, GST is incorrect. Gopal, you want to add anything?
Yeah, because I think there are even in the pre-GST also service tax may be, because a particular treatment has been done in some other law, 26 CS and this ST3 mismatch, that was also there. And there are many cases just because a particular treatment, because there is a different taxable event. Income tax is a different approach for TDS. That is not a supply. Supply is specifically defined under GST law. Unless there is a supply, discount per se cannot be considered. And furthermore, when there is a discount, it is not an activity by me, it is a purchase discount for me. How can there be a tax on my purchase item? So that is there. There is one query that I found interesting. I had recently received. So I would like if we can discuss that also.
Yes, yes, sure, sure.
So Ayush, this query is pertaining to the this filing of appeal before the tribunal. So as per section 112, as per section 112, subsection 2, the appellate tribunal may, in its discretion, refuse to admit any appeal where the tax or input tax credit involved, or the differences in tax or ITC involved, or the amount of fee, fine, or penalty determined by such order does not exceed 50,000. So for CGST, it's 50, SGST also 50. In total, it is 1 lakh. So they all these elements, tax, ITC, difference in tax, ITC, amount of fine, fee or penalty, these are separated by or. And then it says does not exceed 50,000 rupees. So in case, how do we read this provision? In case an order has been passed for let's say tax amount of 45,000 along with interest for let's say 3-4 years and penalty of 100% 45,000. So the total amount is crossing more than this 50,000 ka criteria. But individually, these are all elements are less than 50,000. So first point is that it is at the discretion of the tribunal. But keeping that thing aside, whether this case falls under 112 subsection 2 or whether we have to read all the amounts together for the limit of 50,000. Ayush, you are on mute.
See, what my point in this is that all these provisions or all these tribunals are formulated for the benefit of the taxpayer at a large.
Right.
At the same time, it has to be kept in mind that unnecessarily the time of the GST tribunal is not getting wasted, right, for small matters. Now, what is a small matter? Even a 10,000 rupees demand can be a big amount for someone. And even a 1 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees demands, or sometimes the assessee says that I will pay, I do not want to fight. So what is small, what is big is always subjective. Now, when the government has decided that this 50,000 rupees, say, is a small amount where we do not want the tribunal to suffer unnecessarily with a lot of appeals of these, say, this is a small amount, I think the benefit of the taxpayers at large should also be kept in mind that when tax, interest, penalty together reaches above 50,000 rupees, then this provision should not be attracted. I get the point, I get the vagueness in this provision that the word or is written after everything. Had it been and, we would not be discussing this over here. Because if it is and, we know that all this together. But there again, what I'll say is that there are many case laws of the Supreme Court where they have said that whether or should be read as and. And this is the peculiar case, I'll say, that where this or should be read as and. If the order is only of penalty, then I can say that the penalty is not exceeding 50 lakh rupees. Okay, the tribunal is at a discretion not to entertain. But when the all three amounts, all two amounts are increasing, are going beyond 50,000 rupees, then this provision should not be attracted.
Right. Even I understand, even I am of the view that this should be read as and, otherwise the intention would completely be defeated.
Correct.
That the appellant will be remediless, especially for the smaller taxpayers who do not have the option to go to High Court.
Correct, correct, correct.
Right. So I am also of the same view.
Okay, I think we can conclude. It is already 1:15.
Right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending our session.
Everyone,
Hope to see you next time also at the same time. Next Saturday, 12 p.m., 12 noon.
with more participation and interaction.
Huge participation. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us till end.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you, Gopal. Bye.
Thank you, Ayush. Thank you, everyone.